Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Simulationist podcast. This is the 160th iteration of the show, recorded on the 25th?
No, the 27th of September.
27th
yeah, the month is just
September.
flying by. I had to double check that all day today too.
2015, and my name is Joshua Levin.
Ryan Kirkby, Time Lord apparently.
Time Lord.
In some loose definition of the term.
Yes. So, September, flying by.
Yeah, which means next time you guys hear from us, it's going to be into October, the Halloween month. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to that, man.
The nerdiest month of the year.
Well, I mean, I got family coming over. We're going to see if we can hit Galley Farms up, do a little extra, because,
Corn maze, yeah.
Well, besides the corn maze, we're going to also try dressing up a little early for those of us who have costumes to dress up in.
Mm.
That way, my dad can see his little granddaughter dressed up for Halloween without having to wait the entire week until Halloween comes around. He's got places to go and things to see too. He's got businesses to help keep from floundering. He's a busy man back home.
He's an anti-flounderer?
He's a worker, and he will help make certain that the job keeps on going and everyone keeps having the best day possible.
So that's good.
Yes. We all respect him for that, if nothing else.
That's cool.
Also, by this time next week, I believe the next season's lineup on TV will start.
Oh, yeah, all the TV shows
Doesn't
online.
mean as much as it used to because of stuff like Netflix and, release whenever sort of stuff that some places are doing.
True, yeah.
It still holds significance, though.
There's still, quite a few new and returning series starting up for
Yes,
fall.
sadly, I missed the series premiere of the new Muppet Show.
Okay,
I thought it started next week. Turns out it started this week, and I was watching a movie, and it's like, oh.
Well, once we watch that, we'll have to report on that.
I am holding out high hopes. It looks like they've really got the heart in there. A lot of fun going on.
Mm-hmm.
But, we'll have to figure that one out next week. As of this next week, we'll have I believe it's the next season 2 of Flash, season 3 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to start up.
Gotham?
Gotham is doing the
now.
rise of the villains sort of thing for this next season. I wish everybody the best of luck on Gotham. It just never clicked with me. Maybe it will in season 2. I'll give it a shot again, of course. But
I watched a couple episodes. I liked them well enough, but I
I
never got
didn't
around
find
to watching the rest.
anything that I would say, oh, I don't like it because of this. It's just it's not like nothing said, dude, you've got to see this again next week. Aside from the wonderful relationship between a nice young Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle, where she really does prove herself to be more than just, Batman's naughty squeeze later on in life. She seemed to be a good, effect on Bruce, which is something I like to see, because, all too often in the Batman stuff, it's Batman. You don't get to see a lot of Bruce Wayne in the stories. He is almost a secondary character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if for no other reason, if you want to see more of what a young Bruce Wayne is like, this will help you out there.
Yeah, that happens a lot especially with television and movies, because you can't really explore the universe in depth. often you will basically focus on the main character a lot.
But that's the thing is with Batman, you've got the two main characters, the Bruce Wayne and the Batman. You could have a good story about crime. You could have a good like investigative thing where you've got like Bruce Wayne, like coming, like figure out who's embezzling from the company.
But I don't think of
besides him. He is technically embezzling from his own company.
I don't think of the Batman series. I don't think of Bruce Wayne as being a main character. I mean, he's important, and if you want to think of him as a different character from Batman, if those being like two different characters.
Well, you never see him in the same place at the same time, now do you?
But I really think of it as more like if you're going to say it's one of the two of those story, I'd say it's Batman's story, because it's called freaking Batman.
Yeah.
Right?
But you also have Detective Comics, so you could have Bruce Wayne as the intelligent, billionaire trying to find, like, the corruption does not end with the Gotham City Police Department and the organized crime syndicates. I am willing to bet if there is any Fortune 500 fictional company that is, just punctuated by, rife corruption, it's likely going to be Wayne Enterprises.
But can you imagine? Well, I can imagine a series. Imagine a series that is like on the cover, a comic book, a run or whatever, a series. It's Bruce Wayne, and the big letters instead of being Batman, it's Bruce Wayne.
Or just Wayne
by DC Comics. I would say Bruce Wayne.
Let's make sure he's the main character, but we'll just call it like Wayne Enterprises, because that way you get your Lucius Fox in there. You can get a little bit more depth as to what like Wayne Tech's really all about, and what they're doing. You could really bulk up that part of the Batman mythos this way.
Sure, and then that would be its own run, and in that case I would say then Bruce Wayne can really be like, this is a comic about the billionaire man who sometimes goes out and dresses up as a bat.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you could see like what it's like to be a more normal person in Gotham City. It's not like featuring the story of a costumed vigilante fighting insane people, in the streets and warehouses with extra large versions of mundane items, as so often happened in the Silver Age.
Well, except like
this would be
I
like what it's like
Bruce
to be
Wayne a normal person though.
No, but I mean because he'd be like one of the characters in like I'm picturing a bit of an ensemble cast sort of thing.
Right.
Him being a major role in it, you get to see what life is like inside like the city of insanity that is Gotham.
Yeah.
So I think you get a very different perspective of Gotham this way.
I think that's what they were trying to do then with the TV show, right? They were trying to show it, like, it's called Gotham because it's not about Batman. It's not about...
Well, he's not Batman, no. He's got to spend the 7 years all about.
Yeah, it's about this location where there's these characters, and it's like some normal people, some weird people, sort of what this city's all about.
But here's the thing. I mean, you watch the Batman series, and it's like, these people are scary, insane psychos. But that's okay, because like my stand-in protagonist, my me, is Batman. But what if that's not you? What if the person that you're connecting with is just an average person, skilled in the world of finance, but will not hold their own in a street fight, and they're in like the insane city? Like, how much scarier do these Gotham villains become when there isn't a Batman there to say, oh, well, Batman comes in and saves the day? It's like, no, you're talking to like a bunch of people that are good in finance being shook down by organized crime, and oh yes, by the way, here's, I'll use the Penguin, because he's usually seen as one of the lesser ones, the less serious ones. Mm-hmm. He can't fight Batman toe-to-toe. He's, he's not throwing around crazy, like, Joker bombs. He's just like Gizmo, umbrellas, which sometimes lethal, most of the time just, nice devices, right? But he is more than a match for the average person on the streets in Gotham. So you could have you could have the Penguin there, and you could have him be like a seriously, a dangerous figure. There's no comedy in him in this series with this Wayne Enterprises. Yeah. He's a stark criminal mastermind that is liable to feed you to his animals. The animals happen to be penguins, but dude, still kill you, man. So
if there is no Batman, then sort of the Penguin rules the roost.
Well, that's the thing. It's like even someone who usually winds up with almost comedic roles of like being the Penguin becomes a seriously dangerous threat.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the villains. Well, that's an interesting thing about Batman. I don't think this is actually true, but it's another way of looking at Batman. And I think part of the origin of Batman was that he was supposed to be a dark hero.
Yeah.
Like, he was supposed to be almost a guy that you think might be a bad guy. You might think,
well, that's the general plot. I guess spoiler alert at the end of the second Nolan Batman movie was that everyone believes him to be a killer because that's the kind of person they think this Dark Knight can be. Yeah,
so Gotham is this city with these almost demon-like demigods of the underworld.
I would definitely put them in the demon category. These are like like Archduke fiends sort of thing going on here for the Batman.
And then Batman just happens to be the most powerful of them, or the one who's sort of trying to wrangle the rest, or he's the one that
actively out to try and kill you. That's it. I guess if you're on the Bronze Age, he's still the guy who shakes down hobos in alleyways to try and get information as to the next crime wave.
Yeah, and in that case, I wonder too, if Batman
almost
vacated his throne,
world, man.
If it wouldn't, the next villain would just sort of, and this might be there might be a storyline somewhere where this might have happened, but the next villain in line sort of rises to Batman's throne and becomes the new Batman. It's now that I'm the most powerful demon in the city, now I see it, and I kind of have some responsibilities.
I see it as Two-Face. I just did a quick just spin and win sort of thing. I'm looking through all the regular Batman villains.
Yeah.
Without Batman, Two-Face winds up taking up the role of Dark Crusader. Not as good as Batman, not as benevolent as Batman. He still probably winds up killing the guys half the time. But without that good side of the coin, that is Gotham City. He, instead of wind up becoming Harvey Two-Face Dent, he winds up becoming, Two-Face the hero.
And and so he would have heroic
I would
storylines.
read that Elseworld series so deeply.
Yeah.
Death of Batman, Rise of the Second Batface.
That's kind of neat. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, man. Okay. We gotta figure out if this has already happened. 2, if not, we got to find out how to write a script and send it into to DC. I think this thing's got wings, man. This thing's got bat wings. It's gonna fly.
All right. Well, should I cut this out so that the listeners?
No, because that's going to represent a challenge to us. If someone else can write it up and send it in and get it done before we can, then they deserve to win.
Okay, sure.
There you go. That's as level a playing field as I'm going to get you. Yeah. All right. I already like how this has gone, man.
For some reason, we always start with a Batman.
He's an easy guy to seg into. What can I say?
Yeah.
But I suppose we should go into what we've been doing this week.
Yes, shall we? Let's see. Who should we go?
You go first, Josh. You go first.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go first. I'll try and make this quicker than usual. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
So this week,
the world of tangents.
I watched. I went to an improv show. I always go to various comedy shows around Victoria, which is always happening. There's comedy.
There's a great scene for comedy and improv here in Victoria. If you're not enjoying it to some degree, you are technically losing out on the culture of the Capital Regional District.
That's true.
I will say that, knowing full well that I have not seen a comedy show in a very long time, and thus I am technically part of that problem.
Well, yeah. See, I bring you. What do I bring? I just tell you it was fun.
I'm in the secondary circle here, sort of thing. So I'm at least aware, and you're telling me how awesome this stuff is.
But what I went to this week was the Vikes Improv. So it's amateur. It's amateur improv. It's the university club.
Don't use amateur as like a verb to say like it's crude and not good. It's amateur as in it's very raw still. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's amateur in that if you don't have a lot of spare disposable income, you could go to these shows for basically the change that's in your couch.
Just a pittance.
Because it was by donation, so it's just.
I suppose if you're really cheap, you could try finding some of the couches that are out like on the sidewalks around this time of year and just rifle through that. Yep. Warning: wear gloves first. I don't know if there's an animal in that thing yet.
Okay. So, yeah, sure. So this is the UVic Vikes Improv. I guess Vikes is the name of a bunch of other teams, but they also have the improv team. The UVic Vikes. So they have an improv team, and they performed an improv, and it was so much fun. Like I went and enjoyed, and as an audience member, it was really. What can I say about it? The main story, they did a couple of like exercises before.
Nice.
Like improv games. I don't know if you've seen those.
Yeah, warming up your brain.
Whose Line Is It Anyways? You might have seen just the warm up games. Like
if you haven't seen Whose Line Is It Anyways, we recommend it. That stuff is gold.
Yeah, I think it's still going. I'm not sure if it's a TV show still, but they tour, I think.
It is a series again.
Still a TV
I've
show?
seen it on Treehouse TV within the last, I guess, year and a half.
Okay.
So they've reassembled the cast and all that.
Yeah.
Not Drew Carey. He's busy.
Drew Carey does Price is Right now.
Yes. But they've got pretty much everyone else there. They got a new person to do the hosting thing. They're bringing in guest stars to help out, celebrities and all that.
So they're going strong. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, so rock out, man.
So what did they did warm up, and then they did kind of a long form improv. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
well,
it's like,
tell the audience to make sure. I do have some clue about it.
Okay, they basically improvise like a play, I guess, and rather than just being one game or one scene, which you see on Whose Line, it's this longer they switch in characters, and then it's like two characters are doing a thing, and then they bring them off, they do a scene, bring them off, and then two other characters who are two completely different characters in a different place, but somehow they end up being related. Like in the next.
I will admit,
scenes.
in a lot of movies, that is one of my favorite things, is seeing those three almost completely unrelated stories happening in one city, as how they all wind up correlating and just weaving tighter together.
Yeah,
it is a very good part of many movies. So hopefully they managed to make that one entertaining as well.
And it was this time they told this story about it was a kid who his dad was trying to get him to play soccer, and the dad kept kicking the ball into his face and knocking him out. And the kid, he decided he wanted to be a Buddhist. And it wasn't clear at first whether Buddhism was a sport or a religion. See, this happens in improv. It's like, I want to practice my Buddhism. And they talked about it like it shifts back and forth. And it's funny because through the course of the evening, it sort of solidifies into something and then everybody kind of agrees on what it is at the end.
So was it a sport or was it a religion?
Well, it was a religion, and it was, at first it sounded like the teacher was there, or the principal of the school was like, no, we'll never have Buddhism in this school. And then it turned out that in the middle, the teacher turned into a secular teacher and then said all religions are welcome. And then it was the Buddhist students who were trying to take over the school violently, which is ironic because Buddhists they tend to be non-violent.
Well, they should be. I've seen some stuff in the last few years.
Depending on
you can be a lapsed Buddhist, as it turns out. Who knew?
And then in the end, the students blow up the school because
that's how you achieve nirvana, of course.
And then the explosion turned into soccer balls. Someone came with that. So the soccer balls hit everybody in the face. It was, it was weird.
Improv tends to be. If you're looking for something formulaic, you're not going for improv. If you find formulaic at improv, they're not doing it right.
And there was one character the principal brought in, for some reason wanted to bring in tanks to stop the Buddhists.
It's been done before. I'm looking at you, China.
And so the tank commander came in and was doing all the tanky stuff and driving tanks in there, and that was what he's all about. But then the dad of the kid who played soccer started a conversation with this tank commander, and they started playing soccer together. And he's like, "No, I like soccer better than driving tanks."
To be fair, I've
friends.
been told that driving inside a tank is a noisy, sweaty experience. They don't put AC in tanks, as it turns out.
Yeah, it would be pretty unpleasant, I imagine. But on the other side,
you're driving a tank, dude.
You're driving a freaking tank.
So I suppose it's good for short things. The more time you spend inside a tank, the less glamorous it is, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. I meant the first time you drive a tank is probably pretty awesome, but then
I wonder if they record that sort of stuff for first-time tank drivers. Okay, you went through your practice, here you go, and just watches everyone just, I'm driving a freaking tank, baby. Taste my treads.
Yeah,
I admit the power would likely go to my head at least the first time.
Yeah.
So I will not admit to being any more noble a spirit in that regard.
Yeah. So that was a fun improv show at UVic. And I played also the other thing I did this week, I played some D&D at Roll for Initiative, which was on again. I should plug that again. Plug. If you're in Victoria, British Columbia, go to rollforinitiative.ca, or type in Google Roll for Initiative Victoria, because it might not be optimized, but you find us, or actually look at the show notes for this show. I'll put it in there. But yeah, come out. It's once a month. This month it's, I think, the second to last Saturday of October.
To avoid the Halloween weekend.
Yeah, because we don't want to clash with Halloween.
And IFCon, which is also coming up at the end of the month.
That's also, all the things happening.
October is a busy month for the fun nerd.
It is. But yeah, Roll for Initiative happened. We played D&D. We had Alex as a dungeon master again.
Did you win?
We, the players, won. Yes. I played my wizard again. Most of the other players there, I think it's about usually the same people, but sometimes it's different people.
It's nice to get a little variance in on that. That's good stuff.
But everyone else, basically rolled up a new character, and I'm like, no, I like my wizard character. You know,
that's the thing, is I like the characters I roll up, but every once in a while it's fun to try something new. A good D&D character is like ice cream. You want to keep going back to them, but occasionally, there's nothing wrong with trying out a new flavor every once in a while. So there you go.
So what did we do? We fought some gnolls, we fought a troll.
And this is all with the 5th edition system, right?
Yeah, we played in 5th edition, yeah.
So you have fought against gnolls, and you fought against the undead. And do you notice a significant difference in how the undead are represented for their challenge rating as opposed to the living components? Or opponents?
Well, the undead that we encountered, we killed pretty quickly, actually.
Because I'm remembering the little bit campaign I tried with you to get my feet on the ground and get the thing. Yeah. And I found there's a lot of resistances and immunities that the undead have that just simply don't really apply when you're fighting gnolls and other living creatures.
I'm suspecting. I think that Alex might have because I'm not sure what he does behind the screen, but the undead that we encountered went down pretty fast. I suspect he may have actually just ignored those immunities.
That might be for the best for some of the lower challenge ranks. I noticed your first level characters were having a hard time getting any real damage on some of them.
Yeah, and it was...
Mind you, you're not exactly, combat optimized, as in, I will always deal 10 points of damage around. But, they're valid, good characters, and I love them. I will not actively try to kill your characters in a campaign, Josh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good.
Just pass.
And our group, in the Roll for Initiative group, is, a big, lots of players.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of chances to, we pretty much killed everything pretty easily. We didn't take a lot of damage, and,
I do remember you fighting the 3 cultists at the end, and it was just a 1, 2, 3, hit down.
Yeah, that can happen.
So, yeah. The more chances you get, the better off your team looks as a whole. So, hooray!
Yeah, and I played D&D, which was awesome, and if our listeners are able to, we'd love to have you down there and join us at Roll for Initiative. And I also played a bit of Minecraft.
Anything special in Minecraft?
Well, I built a giant square, I was building a place to put horses, right?
Yes, a mega barn.
Yeah, so I finally got started on there. I put up a nice big center square to build all the barns and stuff around. So it's all lit up. It's with glowstone in the floor, and it's next to a village. So it's about the village is I built a wall around the village.
It's protected
from zombies, and then the square is it's almost the same size as the village. It's right next to it. So then there's the village, then the square, and then all of this stuff around it.
Oh.
In a circle or in a square, basically. Yeah. And I built this nice storage unit, what do you call it? Storage
barn.
Yeah, basically.
Shed.
Or I guess it could be a tack shop because I'm putting saddles and stuff in there.
So how many saddles have you accumulated?
I probably have about 15
not bad.
in there. I added a saddle recipe, just modded it in.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that, and I think it's name tags, or it's not considered cheating to put them into your game in one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't added a recipe for name tags, but I haven't really used too many of them, and I just over the years of playing Minecraft, I think my Minecraft world is probably like 3 years old or something.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good. Beats mine.
But yeah, I probably have like 100 name tags altogether.
Woo. Nice.
And that's without a recipe.
Thank you, fishing.
Actually, fishing was added sometime during that time, and then I was like, oh, I'm getting name tags. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really got to do for mine is create the fishing golem just to fish up whatever I need as I need it for that.
Yeah, but the main thing, like I've never really had that much use for name tags, except the one thing I want to do is I want to build like a sheep harvesting farm, like a machine.
And name the first one Dolly?
No, use the name tags on the wild wolves, so I don't have to tame the wolves, and that way the wolves will attack the sheep.
Oh.
And they'll be my sheep killers.
Very good. Hey, that's something. I haven't seen any wolves in my current map. I got to really adventure out and find them.
Yeah, and I think, and there's a problem too, because the wolves, I think there's something in the code that they just despawn. If you go and visit the wolves and they hang around long enough, there's just a chance that they'll just go
because they're
away.
non-named hostile NPCs.
Yeah, and let's see. So I have a storage barn or tack shop or whatever, and then I wanted to, because you know how you make leads out of slime.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I dug way down underground, and I excavated like a ton of stone and stuff for slime spawning areas. So now I get some slimes going, because I would have gone to a swamp, but there's no swamps near where I am. So
sometimes it's just not time efficient to go and do that.
Yeah, so instead I spent all this time digging tons and tons of stone in a 16 by 16 area, almost basically all the way down to bedrock.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy to say that's a waste of time. That's one of my biggest hobbies.
And then, basically floors, because every floor adds more spawning space that slimes can spawn on. So, about 5 or 6 levels of spawning space.
So, did you make them solid floors, or did you speckle them with, glass so you could have the light filter down?
Well, they're solid for now, but I'm thinking about something like maybe doing a glass floor. Do you remember?
Or at least glass, parts of the floor, so that way you get the light coming in.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Do you know if slimes spawn in the sunlight?
I believe they will spawn in the sunlight if they're low enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'd have to do. Yeah. But that should be good.
They won't spawn on glass itself. I don't think any creature naturally spawns on a non-solid block, so you got either that or putting down leaves for it to work.
Oh yeah, okay. So that's that's my week.
I think I can trump you on Minecraft this week.
Oh yeah.
As I said, I'm starting to wind down my game, sort of thing. It's a little broken since I had to get rid of the Mozarks mod, and the creatures aren't spawning. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to start hitting towards the end game and, go to -500, -600 on the map. And, hey, that's where the stronghold's supposed to be. And so I start a massive excavation just to figure out, I don't want to disturb it. I just want to, find a way in. And next thing you know, I've got, a huge, deep quarry, and I'm going down deep enough to find gold, ore just naturally spawning around there. But I eventually I make it in, I find a nice way. Turns out there was a nice area right next to the final chamber where you get to the end portal that was just right into the regular stone, so it's oh right, and just kind of make my way up through digging through the dirt.
Oh yeah.
I actually wound up being really lucky as I came 2 squares away from a mid-level lava lake, so things could have gone very south very quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that, and I go back and look, and I need 11 of the. Oh no, I had 11 ender stuff, and I needed 9 of them to complete it. So I had enough to pop it in, because the monsters aren't spawning. The only way I'm gonna get any ender related items is through random treasures.
Right.
Which would mean the best chance for me would be hanging out all night next to the one area where nasty zombies could spawn, and getting a very small chance of getting a rare, treasure bag that would get it.
Okay.
So,
I think some villagers actually sell Eyes of Ender.
Yeah, but I'm cheap, and it's very, very unreliable to find them doing those sorts of trades.
Yeah.
So in the end, I just took the quick route and broke some of my blaze powders down, blaze rods to blaze powder. Next thing you know, I pop on through and I'm in the end zone. And I fought the Ender Dragon and I won.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I was really well geared. I decided I'd go in with the full stuff. I've seen end fights before. I know how it goes. I decided not to try and, okay, just once I tried to attack one of those healing crystals with my melee weapon. Oh my gosh, those things do a nice just swath of damage. So that was a little fun. I tried that once, and then I just, arrowed the rest of them out.
Did it knock you right off and send you flying?
That's the thing is, I do have a thermostatic girdle from the from the Thaumcraft mod, so I can fly anyways if I so need.
Okay.
It does reduce my armor capacity by a significant amount compared to my other options, but I can fly.
So you got up there by flying?
Yeah, I flew up there. I didn't need the nerd pole or anything, and then I just, arrowed from a safe distance, got rid of them all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Enderman in my end zone.
Oh, yeah, because your monsters aren't spawning in your world.
It's not spawning, right. So I guess it wasn't a full, complete victory. But I'll say this, whenever the dragon came around for a strafing run against me, I was dealing a lot more damage with my one weapon than it was dealing against me. So combined with an Ars Magica, spell that allowed me to heal up, I was doing pretty darn good. Defeated the dragon, got the experience. Thanks to the Tinker's Construct stuff with my cleaver, I took the dragon's head too. So it's forget all the other stuff, forget the experience and all that stuff. I got the Ender Dragon's head, which is a heck of a good trophy. Mm-hmm. I got the egg. I brought along a piston and a lever, and then I just knocked it over onto the torch sort of thing, and then I got my my egg. Hooray! Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm done officially because they had that credits and that poem thing. I guess it's a free verse poem. Didn't rhyme.
Yeah, or just a colorful prose.
Yeah, some prose sort of thing. So I guess there was a spoiler alert on there. Whatever.
The fact that there's a poem.
Yeah, there's a little something at the end that you can read. And then I got popped back, and then oh no, for something weird is going on with my beds. No matter where I'm sleeping, it says your bed could not be found or was obstructed, and I went up starting back at square one. So it's it's a good thing there's no monsters to worry about here. I'm walking home in the middle of the night. The walk of shame.
Not the walk of victory.
That's the thing. Is it really a victory if your bed doesn't work because there's something next to it and then it won't read it properly? So it's whatever. So now I have to use the Mistcraft mod to create a wonderful void world with absolutely nothing in it that I can create my masterful citadel in the mists of space. And, cool. Use that as a target to get to in my next game. I am one for trying to preserve and make the best out of it, so I tried not to do anything with the stronghold besides adventure through and maybe knock off a few doors that were in my way. Because I was like, oh no, there's no longer an iron door in my way. What am I going to do? I completely destroyed the silverfish spawner as soon as I could. I just hate the silverfish so much.
Yeah. There's not a lot you can do with silverfish.
I think with the right silk touch stuff in a block, I can get them as a block and not have them pop out, and then I could get some interesting, more obscure aspects from the Thaumcraft mod that would otherwise be a little annoying to accumulate. But whatever.
Although one thing I did I modded silverfish to drop silverfish husks.
Oh.
So you can eat them.
They don't.
Disgusting. They don't actually provide any food, but I did add it so that you can just kind of munch on them.
Yeah.
And you can feed them to chickens. The chickens like them.
Okay, that seems a little better.
And I was going to add frogs too, and that was going to be the way that you could feed frogs with silverfish husks.
Okay, I suppose. Like, I mean, I have options of capturing creatures, and I've got, like, on one of my walls, you know, like, oh, hey, here's my creeper, here's my, you know, skeleton, here's my zombie, and all that stuff. No, I'm not catching a silverfish. I'm not even doing that. I spent the time to capture a bat. And with the way they move, that was not an easy task. But I still caught it, and I'm happy to have caught it. I am not catching the silverfish. Not getting the gem that allows me to spawn them out upon command. No. Not at all. But yes, you did remind me, though, with horses and like wolves and all that, I should probably go out adventuring in either in another world or far away in mine to get enough of them so that I can create my own spawners. I think I know where there's almost enough horses. I shouldn't have too much of an issue on getting them. But the wolves and like the ocelots might take a wee bit longer to get. Although I think I have the jungle biomes I need. So there's a little few things to go. But I'm clearly winding down, just getting everything together and then just figuring out how to build everything up when I'm done. But it'll be a nice goal. My next game I'll start off and like my goal will be to try to get into space and then find that world I left behind in the void of reality. So I get all the cool stuff I left behind. I won't have to give up my wonderful weapons. I love my weapons. Some of my items I'm not doing too much with. Now that I've got magic spells, I'm thinking like I don't really need my pick as much anymore. So I'll still take it, but it's like, dude, the one I would really be sad about when I end this game is my named, sword. Nazoth Olak, the cleaver of heads. So it's like, oh boy, I get the chance to like adventure and seek out and get it back again. It's a reward item in the next time, so that'll be groovy. Other than that, I saw 2 movies this week. The first was Dune. Have you ever seen it?
The movie? No, I don't think I have.
Patrick Stewart is in it, and I do not believe he has aged a day since then.
Yeah.
Like, if you want, like, somebody who may wind up being Dorian Gray, look at Patrick Stewart. This guy is aging very gracefully.
Yeah, I would.
Like, this was a 1984 movie, so this is a 30-year span, and he does not look appreciably different.
Well, one thing about Patrick Stewart is he looked old when he was young, so there's that.
He looked like Patrick Stewart now when he was young, so he looks like Patrick Stewart now.
So he aged early, so I guess he's sort of catching up. But that
said, if you've seen photos of him, he is aging gracefully for his age.
Yeah, and I think he keeps himself fit and healthy.
That always helps.
Yeah.
Especially as you get older.
It's a good thing. And he may have even had, in movies he has makeup on, and, whenever he shows up on TV. I
also suppose there's something said about proper posture. I mean, he is a proper British gentleman.
Yeah, do you think his posture makes him look...
It does help out. Good posture can't hurt, but bad posture never helps. So, take from that one what you will.
Yeah, and it's possible he's had some work, like maybe some minor work. If
like
people
a Botox
get it,
sort of thing, maybe.
Yeah, if people get it done right, then nobody notices at all. But I don't know. Who knows?
In that case, who knows? His plastic surgeon might be the best unknown secret in all of British, stardom.
Because sometimes it goes horribly wrong. Like Kenny Rogers.
I won't name names because beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But yeah, there've been some stuff where it's just like, no, you took it too far.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's just my speculation.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart's in it, and he does a great role for what he does. That said, I am going to have to abide by the consensus of people not liking the Dune movie.
Oh yeah.
I have never watched an epic movie that seemed as flat as that.
Oh, okay, that's too bad.
If you're in Hollywood and you're listening to us right now, I would say this one is begging for a remake and a trilogy. Like, there are people out there, there are nerds like me that are sadly mourning the loss of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit trilogies. They're not going to be producing them again anytime soon. But a Dune trilogy could probably be done a lot better and with a lot more emotion than currently.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because you think like the big.
Not that I
trilogy-
want to say like Roger Zemeckis, in a David Lynch film is just by any means like, oh yeah, well we gotta like do that. No. Respect the names, respect the talent behind it. That said, maybe it just wasn't their forte. Maybe it was before its time. Maybe they tried being a little too close to the book. Maybe they didn't follow close enough in other areas. That said, the movie, for I guess its flat flaws, is so very quotable. Oh my goodness! I had known quotes that are from Dune, but it's just like you watch it, and it's like, yeah, I want to speak that now. In the history of the Dune world, they don't have like computers. About 10,000 years ago, there's some sort of theological revolution where you cannot create like a machine with the mind of a human. It's infringing on like the rights of God or something like that. And so you don't have computers. What you have instead is mentats, which, by the way, is a term they used for that and has generally become just used as like a computer level, intelligent person. Anyway, you'll see people referring to another person as a mentat, and that's not like a direct reference to Dune. That's just describing like a state of intelligence.
So a mentat is a person who does calculations.
Is effectively a living computer sort of thing.
Okay.
And it's not in the books, but the David Lynch film and all, Roger Zemeckis and all that, they gave a line for it. It is by my will, is by force of will, my mind is set in motion. It is by the juice of Sappho that my thoughts acquire speed, the lips acquire stains, the stains become a warning. And it winds up just becoming an interesting mantra. I hear a lot of nerds repeating it. Instead of using the juice of Sappho, they use caffeine. By the juice of by the whatever of cocoa sort of thing. My thoughts acquire speed. And stuff like I shall not fear. Fear is the mind killer. It is the little death that brings oblivion and all that. And I think that's a good thing to remember too. Like the more you ever want to be afraid, the less good it's likely to do you. So keep in mind that fear is the little death. Good stuff there. And just quotes and quotes and quotes is very, very good. If you ever want to watch a movie that is quotable without being like over the top and really like, oh boy, I bet you guys want to start quoting this, right? And get us good search engine reviews like you see modern days where they really seem to try it. This one has quotable stuff that flows naturally. But yeah, as I said, I didn't feel the depth. I didn't feel like the desire for the protagonist to avenge his father. I didn't feel the love that he felt with his, the lady he falls in love with, the romantic interest. I didn't really feel a familial connection between him and his sister.
Do you think you were supposed to, or do you think part of the movie was like struggling with that?
It seemed as though it was. Okay. Have you ever seen a documentary on the History Channel before it went all crazy into garbage pickers? Yeah.
Probably.
Oh, okay. Have you ever seen the stuff where they're really trying to focus on telling you what happened rather than trying to get you into the personalities of who was performing? Who were these people in the role of history?
Okay.
And so they really focused on, and then he did this, and this goes over here, and then he did this, and this happened over here, and then this happened.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And that's really what it felt like a historical documentary that really didn't get you in on the characters as much as it could have.
Huh. Yeah. Makes sense.
So, that's, I think, was its undoing. If you could have gotten more into digging the characters, which I believe a trilogy could definitely help you with.
Well, I've always thought, what they should do with film, because film is like a chunk of time almost like taken out of, history or context or whatever, because film... a novel can be, years and years and years and years. And
well, that's the thing is this movie goes over the course of several years.
Yeah.
It's like at least about 3 years worth of history.
Yeah, so I've always thought what you should do with movies is you should basically take one rather tiny chunk out of a novel, like maybe 1 or 2 chapters, and just make that your movie. Like have a beginning, middle, and end.
But then you'd find people that wind up being unhappy because they didn't tell the full ending of things. They only told like 3 chapters.
So, I mean, don't call it Dune, but call it like set in the Dune universe or something like that, or a Dune story.
Mind you, that has its own perils because after Herbert passed away, the Dune series went on to like his son and other people, and the quality of those novels, and other stuff set in the Dune universe has been marked as somewhere between declining and plummeting, depending on your use of adjectives.
Well, yeah, that happens.
So setting something in the Dune universe is not necessarily going to be like, oh, I'm intrigued. It's like, how bad is this going to be?
Well, I don't know, because I think, like, the way we have media now, like, you put out a trailer, and if it looks really like it's going to be a good story, then, nerds will go after it. Nerds will flock to it. They'll be like, oh, this is new, this is different, and it does involve Dune, which we're all kind of familiar with. But
I think in this case you'd have to put in a little. I don't mean to advocate this on general principle, but I think you'd have to put in some extra star power in there. You'd have to get Patrick Stewart to reprise his role once again. You'd have to get like what's his face Jackson to be the guy behind the camera on the whole thing.
What's his face Jackson?
Well,
Hugh Jackman?
Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Well, I get Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman?
No, the what's his face for the Hobbit guy?
Okay.
I suppose that's one guy to do it because I mean he's known for trilogies. You could go J.J. Abrams, and have him
give him Dune. I'd give him Dune. I was reluctant to give him Star Trek and Star Wars, but I'll give him Dune.
I think he could do good on Dune because Dune doesn't have quite so rabid a fan base that's stretched over the decades. It's like we enjoy this novel and some of the other novels I guess we can deal with, and we don't talk about the ones we burned later on. And then like the movie was okay, I suppose. So I think he could really stand to become a huge star in that one. There, he's the star power that could really help out, but still brings in the people to his name that way. It's just like, well, he is a good, proficient director, so I suppose we could make him do, we could trust him with this, and I'll go see it in the theaters. And then it winds up rocking out, and they go, oh boy, you did it, man. And without saying like, you changed things. How dare you change my Star Trek, Abrams? Maybe some other big name actors. I mean, don't forget the original Dune did have Sting in it, so I suppose you can get some other good named actors on there.
Sting back. Get all the whole class, anyone who's still alive, get them all back.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Sting played a very physically fit man, and it wound up being an issue with the character's uncle, who was riddled with diseases, and you could tell he was rather self-conscious about it by looking at Sting with his sleek 80s Sting physical perfection body. Before they had all the ab toners and you get your high-end workout and really rock the pec stuff. So is Sting, I won't say no to Sting automatically, but if Sting's got to play the same character he did in the first one, you got to make sure you're in shape there, Sting. You got to get back to the body you had 30 years ago. I'm just saying. I don't know how much work that is for you, buddy, but there it is. You'd have to get in that same shape. But I think they could really do a lot better with the both the increase in special effects abilities, as well as the knowledge of what you can do with a good storyline and really getting you involved with the characters. And if you do it with a trilogy, it won't feel so forced. Like, dude, we got to tell everything in this one epic movie. Oh God, we're gonna fit it all in. This way, you split up into the trilogy. You could, I could even see where you'd wind up splitting the movies. Cutting the end of one and the beginning of the other.
Yeah.
And you could wind up making it spread out a little bit more, so you can get to love the characters, feel for the characters. Without having the narration, there was a decent amount of narration going on in there too.
What about HBO television?
I think it could rock. I would trust HBO with Dune.
Yeah.
I've always been good to praise HBO, but especially with their Game of Thrones stuff, I can definitely trust them with the sci-fi sort of thing. I think they could make it an amazing series. If they're into it, I suppose. If they don't feel like it, I don't want to pressure HBO into trying it. You pressure HBO and you wind up with a flop, man. Don't no pressure. You want to take it. Other than that, though, I'm not going to give it thumbs down, but I will say I am disappointed in you, Dune.
So thumbs sideways.
I give you a pass. Just one quick straight hand line off to the side. It's a pass, which I guess is like a C+ grade.
All right.
Definitely watch it. I mean, like the special effects held up very well, I think, and you get to see the worms from Dune, blah, and all that.
Yep.
There are some issues I have, but I don't blame anybody involved with the movie for Dune. That I just have to blame the Herbert, the writer.
Okay.
One, I do not see any viable ecology for this planet that people call Dune. There seems to exist only 2 life forms: humans, the Fremen, or I guess Freemen is how, depending how you want to pronounce it. They call it Fremen in the series, so the Fremen.
Okay. Very good.
And the giant, hundreds of meters of long dune worms. There's no real ecology going on in there. It's like, well, how are these things surviving? No one asked that question. No one cares.
What if they hibernate for hundreds of years?
They're active. To mine the spice from Dune. It's called spice, but it's really more of just a biocompound they collect out of the sands. It attracts the worms. And so the worms are always active on this planet.
So they eat the spice. There you go.
Well, no, they actually produce the spice. Spoiler alert.
So that's their poop?
Either their poop or it is never revealed what it was, but they do produce it.
Or I guess like silkworms produce silk.
Well, I just kind of made the assumption that, this is a large body moving through sand. It's probably something to do with their skin abrading off as they're sandblasting their way through the ecosystem, such as it is.
Well, it could be like a slime or something that solidifies when they leave it. Like
I just kind of figured
slug slime that. Or something.
Well, they don't move at slug speeds. They move it like they will come up on you and eat you. So then you got to run to.
Oh, so it's like friction heated, like half molten kind of.
Well, no, I just kind of figured that the worms would be producing so much skin. It's kind of like the inside of your cheeks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of abrasion going on in the inside of your cheeks. I mean, there's at least 3 meals a day of food getting ground up against there. And yet you don't wind up like, oh man, my cheeks are really tender. I ate way too many courses there. Your cheeks are good for producing more skin cells. They're always doing that at all points in time. I kind of figured the worm skin was the same sort of thing. There does seem to be something interesting going on reacting with their skin and the sand because they have what's called worm sign, where you can tell like the worms coming up, in that they wind up generating electrical lightning as they go when they get close and they're moving it fast. Like they generate lightning, so there's something going on there.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to start googling and checking out fan theories about this. I don't know if it was ever fully revealed in any of the books, but.
Well, like when you rub your feet across a carpet.
Something like that, yeah.
Like
There's some sort of similar reaction going on. But yeah, there was not much for an ecology for how these active worms were getting nutrients. It might be that they are actually digesting the sand itself to some degree, and that maybe the spice is some of their waste excrement going out there.
Yeah.
But it's this very sparse ecosystem to have such a large predatory creature, and they will eat people.
And
by
they
the
eat
way,
people. Okay.
Yeah.
And they hunt people. They don't just eat them by accident.
They will eat entire ships, sort of thing. They are attracted to rhythmic vibrations, and so the Fremen have this interesting thing where they walk without rhythm. Walk without rhythm, and you won't attract the worm.
Oh, that's a Dune reference. Oh,
that is a Dune reference. It's not just a Fatboy Slim lyric, man. So yeah. Like I said, very quotable.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have things called thumpers, which is basically just a piston that will thump into the ground. So you put the thing in and you start it up, and then you just go walking elsewhere, and it'll get attracted to the thumper because that's very rhythmic.
Yeah.
And so I did like that. That part of I was like, ooh, that seems like a real beast sort of thing. It has no eyesight, and it's thus attracted to rhythmic vibrations, which would not be produced normally in nature. Very intriguing. I like that. That seems very plausible. So even though it's this giant worm in the middle of the desert that eats whatever it winds up coming across, it's yes, it does have that essence of somewhat believability. That's all I ask for. To some degree.
Do you speculate in nature? There are creatures who don't birds pound against the ground to attract worms.
They can do stuff like that.
Or they they scare them because the worms think that the sound is moles, so they're trying to escape the moles, but it turns out that
they can cause directed movement.
Yeah.
In which case, I suppose if you make a worm 60 feet long, it no longer has to fear the birds and winds up with likely consider it a snack. So you could get something big enough and predatory enough. So these horrible annelids wind up becoming the predator and thus becoming attracted to sound. So it's like, yes, in the mind of my biology degree, this makes a logical sense, and I'm willing to believe it, at least for the sake of this movie.
Yeah, and is it possible that just whatever, like maybe there was a giant bird or something that humans just hunted to extinction? Or maybe...
I won't lie. I mean, like, the history of mankind is over 10,000 years long by the time of this. But that said, I mean, like there doesn't seem to be anything else in this ecology for Dune. There's nothing was shown, at least, which is why I think something could be done better off in like a trilogy of the thing. It could wind up showing the things where it doesn't seem so incredibly Spartan.
Okay, yeah.
At least to that degree. The other issue I have is no ambassadors, no phone calls. Towards the end of the movie, things go bad. Like, the spice production is not going on here. You know, it's like, the spice, must flow, but it's not. They're disrupting the spice flow. And so, the king of all the humanity, the cosmos, and like president or whatever, his title was, comes on down to personally oversee things. And I guess, spoiler alert, winds up getting effectively captured by, the Fremen as they make an attack. And thus he must negotiate with them, not on the best of terms, not on the high end of, the seats. So he's sitting low down now. But it's like, okay, you got issues going on. Like, okay, the spice flow, which is dependent upon, all stellar travel, needs this spice. So I understand its importance. This is like without it, galactic civilization collapses. That said, there is probably a better role for an ambassador than that'd be like Barack Obama going over to the Middle East to negotiate with ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is just completely really ridiculous. You don't get the leader of a world doing that. That's just a horrible notion. There's apparently no way just to make a phone call sort of thing. They're living in a space age. Like, I can travel between the stars world. Admittedly, not with, any computers or anything, but you'd think there'd still be telephones. Somehow. They got radio or something going on. They did show radio.
Oh, yeah, they had radio.
You'd think you'd have radio stuff going on somewhere.
Yeah.
Negotiate by radio. Come on, man. So yeah, that was my other big thing. Is just like, okay, why did the president of galactic civilization need to come to this planet? So I mean, come on, that was a little unrealistic.
Mm.
But I suppose you couldn't have negotiated, his stuff and gotten your revenge and all that with having just negotiators coming on the scene. Oh well. But yeah, that was my other concern. I don't hold that against anybody associated with the movie. No actor, no director, no producer, none of them take the blame on that one.
Hmm.
That was just a weird thing of well, I suppose Dune was written before everyone had a cell phone, so it's that would be kind of what do you mean everybody has a way to contact one another with just phoning that's crazy. And I'm trying to do some serious science fiction here. Come on. 40 years later, boys, his face red. The other movie I got a chance to see this week was the DC Universe original movie, Son of Batman, which is basically a visual storytelling of the Damian Wayne bit. Okay, so the premise of it basically goes like this. A couple of years ago, Talia al Ghul and Batman were, doing standard, I am the daughter of a mad, supervillain sort of thing, and he's like, I'm the Batman. And she winds up slipping a little something in his drink, which makes him compliant. So technically, she rapes him. Mm-hmm. That part is kind of glossed over. It is admitted.
Does it come up in the movie?
It is mentioned, sort of thing, that she's chatting with him. Can I get you a drink? And he says, last time you did that, it didn't go so well. So I thought we were having fun, sort of thing. And so, he admits that, it wasn't his idea, and he was drugged. He wasn't completely unwilling on it. It's just like she just helped make sure that alcohol does the role of alcohol and loosens inhibitions. And Batman is a man of supreme inhibitions, and he needed some inhibitioning. So
yeah.
So she managed to do that. And yeah, it turns out their night of romantic love bore fruit. He now has a son, Damian Wayne, who is being trained by the League of Assassins, which is currently undergoing a rather aggressive takeover. Ra's al Ghul is dead. He has been killed by Deathstroke, the Terminator, the man who was going to inherit the thing before, Ra's al Ghul found out about Batman, how much more awesome Batman is.
Mm-hmm.
So while Talia al Ghul has to try and, settle things out and restore order, Damian Wayne is going to be with, Bruce Wayne, and just, getting to learn how things go and all that. And, you know what? I liked it. It was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, if there's any kid that's hankering for a spanker, and it's Damian Wayne and his inability to obey, you'd think someone that was trained by a master League of Assassins would learn to obey. But no, he's like, you do this and don't do that. Oh, and he's disappeared again. It's like he does not listen. Like, what were those master assassins teaching this kid? Come on. So, okay, granted, he is fueled by revenge to, kill the man that killed his grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. And the bit that really got me that I wasn't happy with, honestly, everything else was happy. Animation was great. Voice acting was great. All around beautiful stuff on there. And man-bats. Like, oh boy, I get to fight not just one man-bat, but multiple man-bats. It even shows it on the cover. Multiple ones of them. But the one bit I didn't like, and this will go into our seg into our topic for this week, is during at one point in the fight, Damian Wayne is fighting at the final fight. Damian Wayne is fighting Deathstroke, and Deathstroke basically crucifies him. The forearms get like katana shoved through them, and Damian Wayne winds up running the gauntlet, right, and just keep moving your hand through it till it comes out, and then taking the weapon out of the other hand, and he continues on fighting. So this is a kid that has been I kid you not, crucified through the forearms here.
Yeah. Well, did it go between the bones or how?
I guess it doesn't even matter if it went between the bones. There's no way it didn't at least do something to the muscle.
Yeah.
And later on, he's shown fighting on equal par and equal strength against a man who is twice his size and thus approximately 8 times his body mass.
Oh, yeah.
And has not been crucified through his arms, although he does have a missing eye. So, not perfect. I guess depth perception is an issue for him right now.
Okay.
But it doesn't really bear nothing against a person who's got so much more size and bulk against you with your, heavily bloodied and massacred arms. And then in the final scene, after the fight and all that and everything goes on, he's not wearing casts. He's not wearing arm braces or anything. He's just it's like the scene, it never happened. It's like, okay, yeah, you did have me, crucified, but then I took my arms out of it, and now I'm no longer, so it doesn't even matter. And it's like, that bit really got to me. If you're going to do something like that to a person, make sure its effects last. I mean, if nothing else, even if, for some reason, the blade was so thin and done so surgically, it winds up not even impairing that much for the muscle, you still have an issue of blood loss.
Yeah.
That is still 2 swords through your forearms.
And you're talking to the writers, right? You're not talking to, the villain. Make sure it lasts, villain. Because he can't really help it. I mean, he did what he could.
He impaled a kid, dude. He, twice with the forearms, man. It's come on. I do not fault him for not winning the day. There's only so much you can do when you crucify the opponent and they don't stop and it doesn't impair them for longer than, I guess a kick or a hit.
But isn't this kind of, normal for comic books and comic book movies?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah. You want it to not be the case, though.
Well, okay. I will show a counterexample. Escape from New York. Snake Plissken gets hurt in the leg earlier on in the movie, and it winds up being that whenever he needs to run, you always see him limping.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though I guess it wasn't too bad a wound, it was still in the meat of the leg, man. God, bang! And so he winds up not being able to run. It becomes a plot point later on when he has to try and outrun the big bad who's coming after him. he can't run as fast. He's always shown limping. When he's got to book it out of a scene, he's limping. And so that way, like, even if it's like not like a very grievous wound, it's only like like a bloody leg wound. Mm-hmm. It's still shown as being hampering him. It hurts him to get hurt.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like that. I mean, the movie was patently ridiculous for Escape from New York. Like, let's just give all of Manhattan to the criminals and just not even try policing it. Why don't go to Kansas, build a supermax facility in the middle of BF nowhere, and just don't give them the space, don't give them the room, don't give them the time of day. Just toss all the prisoners in there. Don't give them Manhattan Island. So that whole bit was ridiculous, but you know what? I still respect the movie because the hero, when injured, stayed injured.
Yeah.
At least they had that level of realism going in there, which is increasingly rare, I've noticed, in movies and stuff. People will get knocked across the room, hit like a wall, fall down, and then they just get up like, oh, no, it was only my spine that got hit the wall. I'm doing fine. Come on, guys. But here's the thing, is it plays so well to the hit point concept. Damian Wayne took 2 major, we'll say, critical hits in the combat roles. But you know what? He's still at about half his health. Therefore, he suffers no penalties for his actions. He's not even considered bloodied under 4th edition rules or whatever. He's oh yeah, I still got hit points, man. I got more than 1 hit point left. I'm still moving. Woo! And maybe, that's the weird thing, because I'm okay with the hit point concept in D&D. I got 1 hit point. There have been times I've actually had my characters decide, no, we got to get away from this guy so quickly. I am not going to feather fall. I have enough hit points. I'm just going to land, take the 20 die 6 damage. Even at max, it's not going to kill me. My fortitude save is high enough. There's a 1 in 20% chance of me dying from mass damage, and I will just heal myself up as I'm laying in this bloody hole I've left behind. And by the time everyone else gets down, I'll be back to full health. I have been an egregious violator of this realism in level of violence.
Yeah, so yeah, D&D has that, especially when you get up to higher levels. Yeah, D&D has that unrealistic, you can get pinned against the wall, with a sword through you, and then just pull out the sword and keep going. You
can get crushed like a falling ceiling thing, 10 die 6 damage, and it's like, you know what? I can still breathe. So, as long as the rogues out there are trying to reverse the trap setting on this trap, I can just hold out and wait. I'm not suffering, bleeding damage. I'm not losing 1 hit point per round.
Yeah. Well, I was watching. This was a cartoon, but I was watching the Croods cartoon, which is, it's one of these.
It's a movie.
I talked about it briefly on the podcast before. I guess it's a kids movie, and it's one of these computer animated cartoons. And those, they're cavemen, right? And they get thrown around, thrown against walls. They drop off hundreds of feet in the air, they're a bird is carrying them or something, and they fall out of the air, and they just land on a rock with a little tiny layer of moss, and they're fine. No broken bones. No.
Well, in that, is it supposed to be a comic thing referring to the strength and durability of the Neanderthal, or even?
I think that's what it is. But the other weird thing about those characters is they are very scared. They stand at the edge of a cliff and they look over it and they're like, "Oh no, a cliff!" Or they're up in the air, "Oh no!" Or
I'm up in the air, pterodactyl's carrying me away.
I'm so scared, and then they actually fall. The thing that they were so afraid of happens, and then they're fine.
So why? Oh, you're saying why should they even be scared of it?
Yeah, why were they afraid?
It's it's just a fall from a giant bird.
But that's also part of the plot of that movie is the caveman dad, who's played by Nicolas Cage. Is
oh, I wish you hadn't said that. Now all I can picture is just Nicolas Cage being crazy Nicolas Cage in the entire movie.
Well, yeah, but his big thing is that he's very scared. He's always hiding his family in the cave because he doesn't want them to go out and get hurt or whatever.
But apparently they're immune to getting hurt by all stretches, unless something eats them, I suppose. They don't get eaten and come out the other end all fine. It's not something that happens.
I don't know. They do encounter some large, mammals or even dinosaurs. I can't remember if there's dinosaurs in that movie. Probably lizards. But yeah, they encounter large that they're scared of. That they're like, "Oh no, don't eat me." But I imagine if it actually bit them, they'd be like, "Oh, ow, okay."
Dude, I fell like thousands of feet, landed on a rock, and I'm okay. Do you think your puny little teeth would hurt me?
Exactly.
So,
I don't know. Yeah, cartoon violence.
But that's the thing, though. Is like in that one, it's intentionally meant to be like really cartoony, right?
Yeah.
In which case, we can say that that perhaps the violence done in Escape from New York was meant to be realistic kind of violence. People die. This thing's like, no, the things that live beneath the sewers wind up taking and hauling away. At the beginning of like Escape from New York, there's a lady, she winds up like propositioning Snake Plissken, oh yeah, help get me out of here and I'll make it worth your while. Because I've got my own wiles. And then, like creatures from like that live in the sewers, these crazy subhumanoid things wind up like getting her and down she goes. You never see her again. She does not get rescued by Snake.
Right.
She is gone. If she's dead, that's probably the best situation for her to be in. Except that she had like an entire pack of smokes with her when she went down. So I was like, no, the smokes. One of the few things you can't get inside the Supermax prison there, eh? So, like this is like realistic consequences. Like, violence happens, people die. And then like, oh yeah, no, I shake off the bullet wound and I'm done. So, like you get hit in the leg, you are walking with a limp, buddy. That's how it goes. You get blown up in a car, you get blown up in the car. You suffer burns damage. You wind up like getting like shock to your system and dying that way. It's realistic violence.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to qualify Son of the Bat then, because on the one hand it is superhero stuff where you take a lot of damage and shrug it off. On the other hand, they tried to portray it in a somewhat realistic tone.
Yeah.
Ra's al Ghul dies, and he dies in such a way that is too severe for the Lazarus Pits to apparently bring back.
Yeah, I think though the rule of awesome might apply. Like you need to have really awesome death, and it's sort of just dramatic.
I won't lie, it's a pretty rockin' death thing. But in the fight scene, this was supposed to be portrayed as dramatic and all that too. So it's like, how dramatic can it be if like getting like crucified does nothing for you, aside from just slow you down for a bit?
Well, but yeah, the rule of awesome was that it would be more awesome for him to get out of that than it would be for him to just that's the way he goes.
But here's the thing: I would have been happy if they had him switch his fighting stance to something more of a spin around sort of thing. Don't use your arms in an active way, but just use them to hold the weapon, and then just do like spins and kicks and utilize a more passive arm stroke. Focus more with your legs.
Okay. Yeah.
In that case, it's like you show like, dude, you have no upper arm strength anymore. You have gotten two rather nasty wounds. Even if we'll say like, oh, he takes like out some like bat, like second skin. There you go. He's no longer bleeding. You don't have to worry about that. And then it winds up being a sort of like he changes his fighting stance to compensate for the fact that no, he is not like swinging a sword with any real strength behind it.
Yeah,
to do that, he has to like just swing his entire body around to get like a kind of like a whip action where you get the end part moving faster than the center. So if they had done that, I would have been like, they really made sure they had a really good change in combat style to reflect him getting hurt. I really respected that. That was awesome. 2 thumbs up, man.
Yeah, but is it lower arm? Yeah, your lower arm though.
The forearm in this case.
The forearm. I mean, you use that muscle, but when you're like most of what you're doing with your arm, isn't it with your upper arm?
Well, it requires the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like your back. I mean, you got one muscle out of your back. It's not like you can use the rest of your back all willy-nilly. Everything goes, man. This is like, your body is not like a modular component. This is very much a holistic thing.
Probably.
But yeah, I mean, all they have to do is have him try and hold off Deathstroke as he puts on some second skin stuff to prevent the bleeding, and then get some tape to tape up the swords around his arm so he can't get it knocked out, and then he doesn't have to worry about losing grip strength from having these wounds in his arms. That would be like, dang, this guy is hard. This kid is hardcore, man. I am this. I can believe this kid was raised by assassins meant to kill at any cost.
Okay. But what about this sort of style of violence? I'm thinking of Mortal Kombat, for example, where the video game where you kick your opponent and liters of blood come out of them. By the end of the fight, there shouldn't be any blood left in any of them.
That's over the top violence. That's the hyper violence sort of thing that some people have been worried about, right?
Yeah.
In which case, I'm okay with that Because one, it's supposed to be Mortal Kombat, fight to the death, and then everyone's still alive in the next series. Like, how did that happen? Well, it doesn't matter, man. You're fighting, and look at all the blood coming out when you kick them. Oh my goodness, look at that one fight scene there. You hit them so hard, they switch over to an X-ray thing, and bam, shows you cracking a skull.
Yeah.
But they still keep fighting on for the rest of the fight. It's not like their hits get any weaker the less health they have on their health bar, right?
Yeah.
Which would be an interesting, extra hardcore mode to fight through. The more damage you are, the less damage you can deal. Dig it. That said, I do believe you have a very interesting real-life example of getting hurt and not getting hurt.
I guess the opposite sort of thing is that when people get shot in the movies, especially like Mooks and Minions, they sort of immediately fall down.
You took a body shot, and then, I'm down.
They're out of the picture. But yeah, there was one thing. I was watching a real life video on YouTube. It was something that actually happened in Brazil. Was that there was a guy with a gun on some I can't remember. It was church steps or library.
The sort of steps you see outside a stereotypical like a
courthouse. It was something like that. Yeah. And he had taken a hostage, and the police were sort of surrounding him, but I don't know if they were taking too long or like people were worried about it. But there happened to be some people around and some homeless people, and one homeless guy decided to sort of be a hero, which probably shouldn't have done, but I guess that was his choice to make, and he went for the guy with the gun, and the guy shot him. But the shooting of him, eventually he did die of his wounds. But
to the wounds, but
in that encounter though, that was enough. Moment. Like he did get shot, but he also was able to continue on and finish. I don't know if he punched the guy or whatever, but he got a hold of the guy.
Distracted him well enough to get the hostage.
Yeah, the hostage got away, and then the police took over after that. So the point there is that even though a gunshot might be fatal to you, you still might have a few seconds, even minutes, even hours of... Depending on
how you get shot, very much so, yeah.
Yeah, you might be able to still function. There's different versions of what can actually be lethal and
I mean, I'm not going to wind up advocating anytime you get hurt, you should wind up really sucking at everything and just die right away.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how it works. The human body is a weird system in that way. You can get shot several times in the gut and still manage to survive several hours before passing away, and that's not even including if paramedics can get to you in time.
Yeah, and sometimes people you hear stories about people who get shot and they think, well, I got shot but I'm fine because I feel like I'm still going.
Or the dude that winds up taking a knife in his back and he doesn't even realize it for 4 hours.
Yeah, and then he just drops dead. Oh, I guess that was that.
Do you think it might have something to do with the knife sticking out of his back?
Yeah, but then the other thing about of what happens with violence too is sometimes you get struck or hit or you I
think it doesn't even need to really be violence. I think all of us have at some point in our youth tripped and fallen and have for some reason landed on our back so well and so completely that it just knocked the breath out of us, so to speak.
Yeah, there's getting the wind knocked out of you is one thing that happens. But sometimes
we've all been on the playground. I think we've all taken a metal bar to the forehead at some point. It happens.
That
maybe
could also
be
a concussion sometimes.
We've all taken a knock to the noggin at one point or another.
So or it could be just sometimes you get hurt and just the pain is so bad in the moment. Maybe it's a funny bone too that does it.
Oh yeah, you get that nerve thing. It's oh man, you can't even think. It's you can see the pain in front of you. You can't even see properly. It's
you get stunned.
You literally get the stars in front of your eyes thing going on.
Yeah, but that goes away in if, I don't know how, depending on when it is, but a few seconds, a minute. And then you're back in fighting shape again. I mean, you're probably not 100%, but yeah, you're still. I mean, if you were still in a fight.
Lord knows I have been in a couple fights in my youth where I got knocked to the head time and again, and that didn't even faze me.
Really?
And then later on, it's just well, you're watching a movie. It's guy got hit in the head and he falls down. It's that didn't happen to me. Does that make me a superhero? Should I have become
It makes you lucky, I think, because you can getting hit in the head can be you can get.
Well, it was by another kid, so I don't suppose it was that hard about that, right?
Hand.
Untrained fighter, but still taking knock to the head, and this isn't even. I'm not hurting. I'm not even feeling it. Come on.
They've actually. Some people have made the point about boxing that boxing is actually more dangerous because there's gloves. Because if you punch a person in the face as hard as you can, with ungloved fist, you'll actually break your hand because the skull is that hard.
Unless you've gotten like a whole lot of training. They have shown that proper like martial arts stuff will do microfractures enough that you get some really dense bones. So you can help minimize extra injuries that way.
That's true, but it's also like when I'm saying as hard as you can, I'm saying like I guess a professional fighter level.
Mama said knock you out.
as hard as you can, like as hard as you would with a boxing glove.
This is a $15 million bout. If you're not hitting as hard as you can, you don't deserve to be there in the first place. And chances are you would never have gotten there if you weren't hitting as hard as you can. So
that's an incredible amount of force to put on the human hand. I mean, the human head, that's another thing, but the human hand. So I think they would.
Well, I think the human head has it a little bit better off, brain damage aside, because it would automatically start radiating out the physical effects across the area.
Yeah.
Whereas with the fist, it just kind of goes in a more linear fashion down the forearm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess the arm might have it even worse in that regard.
Yeah.
Long story short, don't try and punch RoboCop. Does not help.
So they say that boxing gloves actually let you hit harder because you don't have to worry about breaking your hand. And then that
bruises,
in turn.
So I guess you leave a better corpse for the funeral. It's like, I can't believe he's dead. He looks so completely unharmed. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't be looking at the skin for that. It's the knock to the brain.
So there's that, and then there's medical shock, which is. You've
taken so much trauma, things start just like your body. I don't even know what to do, and it kind of spazzes out, and then it's like, oh, there you go, you're going now.
Yeah, and sometimes that's like just basically a physiological response, as your body creates. It diverts oxygen to the wrong places or to places that it thinks you need it.
You are so far out of homeostasis. There is like it is just going completely wrong. It's got like more oxygen here? Is this going to help out? Maybe I should, knock this, or maybe we should just have you lose consciousness. Is that helping? What's going on here? The brain, the entire body is not adapted for such horrible situations. Can you imagine if we were, though? Just like, oh no, you wind up getting so much damage. It's like your body knows what to do automatically. It's like, it's just massive trauma to all your internal organs. Do this. Okay, this priority here goes up to that. It's like,
yeah. Well, I'm
kind of happier that we haven't evolved some sort of response to this horrible amount of damage.
I think
that means we'd have had to survive it for so many generations to make it an evolutionary factor.
I think shock, in a way, shock is that, though. Shock is sort of the body going into emergency mode and doing what it can to save what's left.
You got to stop doing whatever you're doing right now. We're going to just drop you into unconsciousness, and if you do not die, you will not have gotten into any worse condition. Whatever you did, you
also, though, sometimes what happens with shock is like you keep it basically lets you keep walking around even though you're
when you're
injured.
Yeah, the non death shock. You just like I'm doing fine. I don't know what's going on with you guys.
And you don't notice things like broken legs or whatever, and still just walk on it. And
in which case, it might just be a sensory overload in some cases that way. It's like there's too much pain for your brain to process. You don't even realize the pain until the chemicals start coming down and things start getting a little bit more focused for where the pain is coming from. And the brain's like, oh, it was the leg that was causing pain. You should probably be feeling that now, buddy.
Yeah. How do we bring this into the stories that we tell?
I think as you pinpointed, it definitely goes down to how cartoony it is.
Mm-hmm.
With one exception for Bugs Bunny, or maybe one or two exceptions where Bugs Bunny was fighting the Axis forces in World War II. His cartoons have always been violence doesn't do much more than knock a person and make them dirty, sort of thing. You get hit in the face with Elmer Fudd's gun, you've got a lot of black powder on you, sort of thing.
Right.
That said, you drop an anvil on a Nazi, they do not get up again, as it turns out. Oh, that's a pretty grim one there. But it happened. They don't show it often anymore. They'll try and deny its existence as long as feasibly possible whenever the situation comes up.
Do they?
Oh, they do not mention it.
Is it on the internet?
Oh, yes, it is on the internet because they don't want to mention it, because they want to hide it. It's a Streisand effect. I believe if they were to say, yes, this is how things went in that day, it was very irresponsible. I think it was very one-sided. I don't think it was very good humor at all, sort of thing. And we believe this to be one of Bugs Bunny's worst things. and you're not going to see us doing it again, no matter how bad an opponent he winds up, like having America face. I think they just, oh yeah, what a really boring answer, whatever. Let's go on to find something else entertaining. It's like, no, he has never fought in, the Japanese or the Nazis during World War II era, and there wasn't ever realistic style violence.
Are they really saying that? Oh.
They do try and downplay it or try and ignore it. You go to places like that and you just ask the questions to the Warner Brothers, they'll just ignore you.
If you go to the Warner Brothers office in Los Angeles?
If you go on like the tourists and all that, and they're showing you the tourists, that, they will at least try and ignore you as long as feasibly possible on that sort of thing.
I'm picturing it bothering the tour guide. So
yeah, because that's really the person you want to bother too. It's like, yeah, they were the ones responsible for the animation.
$8 an hour tour guide.
Yeah, they're the ones who really deserve to have that heaped on their head. But no, they're like, that's just what they try and do. They downplay it. They do not put it out publicly anywhere. You do not find like a 50 greatest war cartoons anywhere. So yeah. So that aside, that's very much slapstick. It never really hurts. Daffy Duck gets his bill shot off. He just picks it up and puts it back on, tries to get it at the right angle. Sometimes it's on the back of his head. He just brings it back around, right?
Yeah.
It's cartoony. It's over the top. It's never meant to be like that. On the other hand, I think you lose something when it's a superhero that winds up, oh, I'm hurt, and then it's just like, oh yeah, that wound never happened after I shrug it off.
Well, there's something in between. There's like this sort of teenage edgy violence of actual like swords and blood and Mortal Kombat type stuff where it's like, yeah, he got pinned to the wall, but then he ripped himself off and his shirt came off and he was
so angry his shirt exploded around him as he was to kick the ass of the guy who tried to impale him.
So yeah, that's sort of a different level of cartoon violence, but it's sort of I guess a teenage sort of
teenage cartoony violence.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. I think a hero is bigger and better and more heroic when the stuff they overcome actually matters.
Okay.
Like Spider-Man saving, or spoiling a bank robbery. That's a good thing. Spider-Man is not immune to bullets. He can do his best to dodge them, but even spider reflexes mean he's going to wind up getting grazed eventually.
Yeah, did Spider-Man ever get shot?
Spider-Man's being shot and beaten up, and oh my god. I have a suspicion there's an extra minuscule superpower that Peter Parker has that allows him to heal bruises at a supernatural rate. He still feels it, he still hurts, a broken arm is a broken arm, but he heals those bruises faster than is normal. But yeah, Peter Parker has gotten just himself laid flat so many times. And that's what makes him. Is there'd be times where it's like, oh no, like there's a beam falling on top of me, and I can't even use my spider strength to lift it off. I'm dying. I'll do it. And then he winds up, like, oh wait, like I got to do it. If I'm gone, who will care for Aunt May? And like what sort of state of emotions would Mary Jane be in if I wound up dying here and all that? And how like God would J. Jonah Jameson be laughing at me sort of thing as he finally finds out that it was Peter Parker who was Spider-Man all this time, and he winds up coming up with the strength of will to somehow move it off of the beam off him and then escape to safety. Now, that was literally an entire issue of Spider-Man once. Mm-hmm. Just coming up with the strength of will or power to just overcome his innate downward negative thoughts. I think that makes him more heroic.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, but as I said, Spider-Man is not immune to bullets. Sort of thing. Like, guys shoot at him, he's in danger.
Although he does have plot armor.
Well, to some degree, sort of thing. I mean, he's got the reflexes enough to dodge out of the way, but it's still a potential danger to him. Mm-hmm. He winds up fighting Electro sort of thing, and it's like, you could seriously mess up his electrical system, and you could fry him forever. You go up with Superman on the same thing. Superman saving, like the bank's money from a bunch of crooks isn't a story. That is 4 panels at the beginning before the story really happens. That's just, what is Superman doing today? Well, he's foiling crooks. And then, he stopped a bank robbery, and then he goes on to the real plot. Because why? Like, what are they going to do? They're going to shoot him? He's immune to bullets. They're going to throw the gun at him when they run out of bullets? He's immune to guns being thrown at him, apparently, too. Who knew? You're going to throw the money at him? You're going to drive like a car into him? Is he Superman? None of that stuff is going to hurt him unless you find some sort of like chrome kryptonite bumper to crack him with. It's not going to happen, man. Might be an interesting plot. You're looking for a good Superman story. Some kryptonite gets into a chrome manufacturer. It turns out all the cars in Metropolis can actually hurt Superman now. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't make him a better superhero when there's really no challenge or no danger for him.
Sure.
And so that way, I find like a hero that shrugs off this damage and then just it never gets referred to again isn't as heroic as they could have been. The Captain America, the Winter Soldier, he gets hurt. It's like, I mean, sure, he heals good because he's like the pinnacle of human perfection, right? But he's still getting hurt. He is still suffering from these wounds, man. It happens. And that makes him more heroic. That's why I like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When they get hurt, they get hurt. This is not something they, I got shot last week and, I just brushed it off. It's gone now. They have to go through some physical therapy. They got to go through like psychological training because you get messed up in the head when you get shot and hurt like that. They're mortal people, and thus going up against these great threats, it makes them even more heroic because they can seriously hurt themselves. It's a disservice to have them shrug off and never have it referred to again for these injuries. In my opinion, at least. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah. Well, I suppose like if it's a longer. Like a whole movie and stuff is supposed to happen after, because I picture like that moment is pretty awesome when the guy like is like pinned to the wall and he gets off the wall, like that's that's very
I gotta
awesome.
say, in the Son of Batman, that was a pretty intense moment. He's doing it, he's running the gauntlet, he's pulling his hand through the sword thing, and he's pulling out the other sword. Oh my god, this kid is really a dedicated kid, man. And
you can see, like, especially comic books are a sequence of images. Like, that's how a comic book is constructed. And a film is a very rapid sequence of images. But it like, when we watch it, we sort of expect them to be connected. And that's what you're saying is, like, why isn't later on in the show, why isn't he suffering from that? But at the same time, a comic book is not doesn't have to be that whole entire, like, coherent narrative, as long as it's just a series of awesome moment here, and then another awesome moment here happens, and then another different awesome thing happens.
Fair enough.
They don't necessarily have to be entirely connected.
How about if I bring it from the perspective of comics, for the superhero comics, and their crazy obsession with deep level continuities? Like, there are people that just like lose their I'll drop an S-bomb there. They will lose their when it's like, how does this work? And what is Superman doing here? And he's in this one comic here, and he's over in this comic here. And it's like, how did he get from there? Which order is this done? Which sequence is this event taking place in? And it's like, they've had to come up with 5 different worlds back before 1986, before they condensed everything to make sure, like, this happened on Earth 1, this happened on Earth 2, this happened over on Earth S, this happened on negative Earth 3, this is Bizarro Earth negative 1, sort of thing. And they had all these different worlds to make sure all these stories were valid. They were all in equal continuity. So what does it say if you're that hung up on continuity of your storyline, but are so willing to ignore, like, he was hurt 4 pages back. I mean, he got his hand run over by a steamroller. What is he doing fighting, zombies with his katana blade now? Like what's going on here, man? What does it say when that is something they're willing to drop, but they have to? The story must matter. It had to happen.
Well, because I don't think continuity is like the most important thing in the world.
Neither do I, but I am willing to acknowledge that the fan base for superhero is incredibly anal retentive on continuity and what is canon and what is not.
Yeah, and I don't want to take that away from them, because I find that it is very enjoyable to read people trying to muddle through those, and maybe that's why it's done, is because it's not because they have to have everything in a line and straight and like they're obsessive compulsive about the story.
They do seem obsessive compulsive,
or anal retentive, or whatever the
no, it's almost
is.
Getting towards obsessive compulsive in some cases.
But what I see it as enjoyable. I see it as a puzzle to be like, okay, like, what if all these things were true? It's because comics are always about playing the what if game, or comics.
That's their basic premise. What if a person from another planet landed on Earth and had powers far beyond that of mortal man?
Yeah, so it's just carrying that on to what if all 5 of these mutually exclusive stories actually were true, like what if?
And how would that explain things back and forth?
Yeah, and how could you? So it's just another exercise in comic book like imagination.
Yeah.
And that's how
like
I do
one
that,
thing,
yeah.
like Superman, and the Justice League fighting vampires in one storyline, and then have Batman in another storyline saying, "I don't believe in the supernatural." And it's like, dude, you fought vampires.
Yeah.
One of your best friends is Zatara, the magician. She is Homo Magus. Come on, you do not believe it? Do you not believe in your own friend? Her dad was one of your mentors, buddy. Come on.
Well,
Which, by the way, I would love to see Zatara turn up in Gotham. If she turns up in Gotham, I might consider watching it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if her dad is one of Batman's mentors when he's getting his training in, it would be nice to see a young Zatara show up. I think it'd be entertaining.
Yeah. So as a viewer, like I'm sometimes like going back to the guy with his arms pinned to the wall with katanas.
Damian Wayne.
If I wanted to play the what if game, like maybe what if the sword went through his arm but missed or didn't do significant damage to the muscle, or like
which is I think a little weird given the fact that it was brought home by a man called Deathstroke the Terminator, who was to become the next head of the League of Assassins. It's like, if you can't hit a good shot in the arm, what are you doing with your organization?
Well, okay.
Like, you got to downgrade your name.
Here's the thing. Like, what if we're playing the what if game? What if he intended, because he didn't obviously, if he wanted to kill him outright, how about a katana through the heart? How about that?
Well, you didn't have the opportunity for that. The blade was going this way. The least you could do is stick it in and kind of like grind it around before you shove it into the wall and pin him in there.
Well, my thought is that maybe that was intentional. Like maybe he wanted to cause a little bit of suffering, or and basically not do lethal blows. And because he stuck him to the wall, for maybe he was intending to play with him a little bit or whatever.
Well, Deathstroke is supposed to be a smart guy. He is fighting a kid who is hell-bent on killing him.
Yeah.
He has got the birthright to become the head of the next League of Assassins, and sort of thing. And down underneath where they're working, there is Batman and Talia al Ghul. And it's like the longer you toy with this kid, the more you're going to have to wind up fighting all of them at once. So, this is not a time for cat and mouse games.
I think that was a bad decision. Well,
I think it was tactically unwise. I also think it was fairly unwise not to be packing a lot of firearms in that case, too. Swords are fun, but dude, unless you are, like Spider-Man or the Flash, you are not dodging bullets. Not really, buddy.
Yeah, but sometimes villains all the time, villains are basically defined by the fact that they make bad decisions. That's why they're villains in the first place. They made a bad decision somewhere, or something bad.
They decided the path of supervillainy was actually a lucrative career for them.
Yeah, which is a bad choice.
Okay, I'll admit that one, yeah.
So yeah, and this is where headcanon comes in. And I haven't seen the actual scene, so I'm just.
I recommend it if you get some extra time. Man. All of the DC Comics animated movies, I think, are just top notch. Marvel rules the roost when it comes to the silver screen, but if you want yourself a nice little 2-hour cartoon movie to watch, DC has got a wide selection of great choices.
But here's another counterexample. Did you ever see, sometimes you see these pictures on the internet of a guy who's got a spike in his head?
I have seen stuff like that.
And
Phineas Gage, dude.
Yeah, Phineas Gage, that's the guy.
Yeah.
He's got a big spike in his head.
I have seen it often enough. I have memorized his name.
You remember the guy's name?
Phineas Gage with a railroad spike through his skull.
Yeah, it goes up through his chin. Is that
up in the jaw, sort of thing, and it's up in the brain. Oh my god!
And he lived, and
he was never the same afterwards.
That's true, but this happens sometimes that people get objects sort of stuck through their head and they survive.
horrible wounds. And then you got cases where people fall 15 feet and they're dead.
Yeah. So I think life has room for those. If you need to explain something, you can say, well, it was one of those circumstances. If he's alive, well, he got lucky or something like that. Or
the thing is that you go with the introduction of Bane to the Batman mythos. He's the man who broke Batman literally over his knee.
Yeah.
He broke Batman's spine. Batman had to go through physical therapy. They had to have a stand-in Batman to try and keep the pace in the meantime. That was bad. If Batman had just been like, "Oh, you really hurt me last week. Now I've come for vengeance." It's like, no, he broke your bat, Bruce. He broke your bat back.
Bat back. Yeah.
And you do not just get off and just like, "Oh yeah, I put an ice pack on it. Now I'm fine," unless you're Wolverine.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it made it interesting if we have just a moment, to talk about how Wolverine is technically a more kid-friendly superhero than most of the others, because you can show the effects of this. When Superman flies around, people, wind up remembering that case of the kid down the road, down the street in the neighboring
kid
town.
Jumps 10 off a
years,
roof.
Puts a cape on his back and jumps off a roof or out of a window because that can fly like Superman. Wolverine jumps out of a plane. He hurts himself. You see, the adamantium bone that doesn't get
There's
broken.
a lesson for you.
Why you don't jump out of things? You will get hurt. But he's Wolverine, and so it heals up, so you don't have to look at his bloody arm, and he can keep on going and do the heroic stuff afterwards.
Yeah.
His power is being technically more kid-friendly and yet more gory at the same time. It's an interesting superpower to have.
Yeah. Well, it's like the old Brothers Grimm tales about kids wandering into the woods and getting eaten. Yeah, that's what happens when you wander in the woods. A wolf gets you.
Yeah, especially back in the day. Yeah, definitely. That said, they also had talking wolves too, so kind of iffy on some of those lessons. The wolf was maybe allegorical.
Yeah.
In some degree. But I'm more okay to grant leniency for characters that have regeneration factors to some degree. Or I suspect have regeneration factors. Peter Parker has something. He has some sort of regeneration ability that heals bruises, or he's amazing at makeup.
I guess, the problem with people, especially in the Batman sort of series of stories, is Batman and his successors generally tend to be normal human, like mundane humans, sort of who are really well trained and skilled and have cool gadgets, but they don't have superpowers like super strength or healing or speed or anything like that.
Which, by the way, I think has always been a shame. I would love to see an Elseworld story where instead of getting Dick Grayson or Tim Drake or even Jason Todd as a Robin, I would love to see Batman have picked up Raven from the Teen Titans thing to become the next Robin. Mm-hmm. Or I guess she'd wind up still being Raven. Batman and Raven.
What are Raven's power again?
She's got she's like a half demon.
Okay.
And she's got magical powers. But she definitely fits in with his dark and spooky motif. So I could see her filling in the Robin role with Batman. In which case you have a normal guy, he's Batman, but he's still just a regular human being. And then his assistant has got supernatural powers. It's an interesting dynamic where your sidekick has technically got more innate power than you, but that's okay because I'm Batman.
Yeah, well, it's like Green Lantern Kato. Kato was the better fighter, right?
Oh, well, he was played by Bruce Lee. Yeah. You're not going to find a better fighter. This is a guy who beat up Chuck Norris like a mook. So there's your power level stuff going on there. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I guess we're almost out of time, so I should
technically, I think we're running over a little bit. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. How can people get a hold of us?
They can email us. thesimulationist@gmail.com is our email address. If you have lots of thoughts that you want to fill in that won't fit in other 140 characters, if you have less than 140 characters, you can tweet at me at SpaceBoot1 is my Twitter.
That's the numeral 1.
That's right, SpaceBoot numeral 1. And
I got to open up a Twitter handle just called numeral 1, just written out.
Yeah.
Numeral 1, that's the written word, not actually the numeral 1.
Oh, boy. And also, you can comment on our Facebook page. Like us on Facebook, and you can find us there, facebook.com/thesimulationist. Comment. The longer comments are allowed on Facebook, so you can type away to your heart's content. And
it's also good for linking stuff. So if you got a web page that shows an interesting we'll say a continuum of different kinds of realistic versus cartoony violence. There's a clip on YouTube that you see. Link that up, and that's a really easy way to share that with everyone else.
You know what? It just occurred to me. I'm telling this to my future self, editing this episode. Put up YouTube links on the Facebook page in addition to the show notes. I think that would be a useful thing for people.
It does help out very well that way.
This episode will also be available on YouTube and all past episodes. So they're archived there basically forever, I think, on YouTube. So it's
until YouTube flops, which I don't think will be for a while yet.
And also, YouTube also allows comments and thumbs up and stuff like that.
Danger alert, you will be a YouTube commenter if you comment on there. So you don't have to do like the stereotypical YouTube comment, but you will get technically lumped in. So just be sure what you're getting into. There are consequences, but
yeah, exactly.
I think we have a good crew on that sort of thing. There's nobody that's posting horrible comments. Like
hardly anybody comments on our YouTube.
That is actually a mark of distinction for us.
I guess hardly anybody watches the YouTube.
We don't have that stuff to worry about. So you are a little bit more unconstrained in that regard. You don't have to worry about people posting those horrible comments. They are infamous for.
I think people's preferred method of the podcast is iTunes or Stitcher or whatever. Speaking of iTunes and Stitcher, if you happen to find us on there and you happen to have a moment, we would love a review from you, like anything you want to say about our podcast. Tell everybody else that we're great. That would really help us out and make the podcast more popular. And tell a friend in either real life or, on a message board somewhere. Just mention us in passing if you're talking about whatever we talked about today.
Getting hurt,
getting
new
hurt,
fall lineup,
violence in role-playing games and comic book violence.
I'm sure we only scratched the surface on this.
Indeed.
There's a lot of violence in fiction. It's the easiest, thing to show. Like man versus man versus self, man versus nature. It's really hard to show like man versus self without, going deep, into your own mind and then having you hurt himself anyways.
Yeah.
It's easy to show violence. It's very, very, very primal.
Indeed. Did I forget any? I think that's everything.
I believe that's every which way.
Oh, and come on down to Roll for Initiative. Usually the last Saturday every month, but this month it's the second to last Saturday. But kind of look it up.
That's because if you got the time, you got the money, get your tickets for IFCon.
And IFCon is coming up
which
soon.
is on the Halloween weekend, 31st and November 1st, I believe it is, Saturday, Sunday.
Gonna be good stuff.
That'd be over at the Perks Arena sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, and also if you like if you like comedy, I also do a comedy podcast that I want to.
Yes.
It
you need chuckles? Go to Josh.
Yeah, it's called Space Boat One, and I'm gonna throw a link up in here.
It's boat,
also.
not boot.
Yeah, I changed it to boat for reasons.
Because that way you can pronounce it like in a British way. Go to Space Boat.
It occurred to me, I think, boat in German, or boat is spelled boot, like the
Das Boot.
You say it boat, you say the word boat, and it means boat, as in English, but it's spelled boot.
Das Boot.
Das Boot is you say Das Boot.
Yeah.
But
I say Das Boot.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want to say. Who cares?
I am not known for my proper pronunciations in English, let alone any other language.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's all covered.
Right, final thoughts?
Yeah, final thoughts on this.
I think it's very, very good, and it definitely will do you well in whatever you're writing to decide beforehand how realistic versus how slapstick your violence is going to be. Where are you going to put that on your dial there?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to role-playing games, I would not mind seeing something that does like a damage sort of thing, like a critical hit. You wind up, you can either do the double damage or take standard damage and an area penalty. So it's like, no, I got hit in the roll randomly the arm. Mm-hmm. So you wind up getting a penalty to using your arm until you get some healing going on there, which is easier than ever in 5th edition. Short heals, long heals.
Yeah. Well, it occurs to me the reason we don't have that in D&D is because it tends to get a little bit bogged down. We have several charts of where to roll.
I do realize that for the 2.5 stuff with the player's options. Very interesting charts, very, very amazing things.
Which body part is affected, and then is the injury permanent, or can you shake it off in a minute? And then
I would say it could be potentially permanent if you winds up dropping you to 0 hit points sort of thing, but you still recover.
Okay, sure.
That was enough to knock you down and almost dead, man. If you didn't recover in time, then that's it for you.
But I think what I would like to see is, like, maybe for a dungeon master, this would have to be an experienced dungeon master doing this, and I don't know if this would work.
If the players are willing.
Yeah, you'd have to have your players sort of, I don't know, they have to trust you, basically. Because
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to ask them in advance, but they just have to trust that you have to be good enough friends with them to say, okay, this is what we're doing as a DM. I'm sort of throwing in these. But then, okay, so here's the thing you do as a DM, is you just sort of come up with on the fly. Like, if something happens, like a really high damage, or like they fall off something, they take fall damage or something, just on the fly, you as a DM just sort of come up with, like, oh, okay, I'm going to throw on this extra penalty, or I'm taking off a couple of points of damage, but saying, like, it did this other thing to you.
What if you make it like an optional sort of thing? Like I said, you either take double damage, or you take standard damage, but you take the penalty.
My thought going into this with throwing this idea out was to speed things up. And every time you add a choice in there, that's a few extra seconds of the player being like, oh.
But it does potentially add to the enjoyment it adds. It's like,
yeah,
I'll take the wound. Okay, what's it doing for me? I suppose you could also simplify it, say no mooks. Mooks do not hurt you that way.
Sure.
In which case it has to be, dude's got to be a villain or a lieutenant sort of thing doing the bad stuff on you.
Yeah, well, or
particularly a nasty fall, like a 50, 60.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. As a DM, like, this is what I'm trying to get across, is that I want it to be a fast decision and something the DM can just say on the fly, I just feel like this is right for this situation. Like, I feel
You fell 60 feet and got impaled on the wooden spike, serrated wooden spikes at the bottom. I'm going to say, without significant magical healing, you are going to wind up... all fluids coming out of you are going to involve blood. Even if it's supposed to be urine or out the backside, there's going to be blood, man. You cannot just bandage this one up.
And that can be a bit difficult depending on the rule set you're working with, because sometimes the rules are like healing spells don't even, because that's not expected to come up in the rules. Healings are just, we just heal hit points. Like, there's no healing spell for internal bleeding, for example.
I suppose if you're like casting a healing spell on someone, that should be the first area that healing magic goes to.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Unless you want to be like a really, like, I'm an evil cleric and I'm gonna cure like the lightest wounds possible on you, but only the outside. You're still bleeding internally, but you're gonna leave a wonderful corpse behind.
Well, this is why I'm saying it has to be like an experienced DM, because you don't want to be a dick about it and just say, like, haha, like, you've been I've stricken you with this injury that healing spells do not cure.
Well, I suppose you could work on something more cinematic, like the Tri-Stat system, where there's actually a thing for that, where it's like uncurable. You can't normally heal it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm recalling just quickly like a weapon. One of the guys from Darkside's Planet Apocalypse had. It was a sword that was dermal regenerative, but subdermal disruptive. Mm-hmm. So it would like cut up your internal organs, but leave your skin perfectly unharmed. A perfect corpse upon death.
I like that for stories, yeah.
That seems very much in the cinematic style of a superhero thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work necessarily good for D&D. It's like, well, what's that do for hit point damage?
Yeah, and then what happens when a player gets it, and can the player exploit it then?
Yeah.
Of course, these things...
I just rubbed the outside of the blade along my skin to heal up those little light wounds I want. That's okay, right? Like, I'm not like really hurting myself. I'm going to unskin myself here. Yeah.
And this sort of thing that I'm sort of putting forward, it usually works against the players, because players just want to do damage against the bad guys, right? They just kill them as fast as possible. Unless
you're dealing with a more city-based campaign where in case killing them does come with a murder charge. You'd have to be more in charge of subduing them to a point, in which case it's like...
You could break bones and stuff. Yeah.
I'm going to break legs, break knees. I am going to say, no, I don't do double damage. I am, however, pinning him to the wall with my short sword.
Yeah,
he's going to have to run the gauntlet to take it off, in which case, no, officer, I tried to subdue him, but he just hurt himself to the point of death. He wouldn't go down peacefully. He destroyed himself in a frenzy.
I might, as a DM, I might allow a player to, try something like that.
Especially for more of like a scoundrel as opposed to like your murder hobo thing that you end up getting in some campaigns.
Yeah, I don't picture that happening too often, but yeah, I suppose if it came up...
You make that as an interesting twist. It's a standard adventure, but instead of killing the villain, it's a bounty you're working with, so you got to bring him back. He's wanted by, I don't know, he's the Knave of Hearts. You gotta bring him back to the King and Queen of Hearts, sort of thing, so he can meet proper justice. There you go. It's a nice twist. It's like, it's not your standard little adventure. It's a little one-off adventure. Everyone's done at the end of the night, but you know what? Here you go. Twist.
Yeah. As a DM, I would, like, if the players are like actually physically, they cut stab wounds, like stabbing the guy to, like, you know, subdue him, I might actually have him bleed to death. But I suppose, you know, if they have a cleric with them, or somebody who bandages them up properly, I'd probably
Medicine
be
check,
like, no, he's okay, unless you try to move him.
That's okay. Tensor's floating disc, baby.
Yeah, that would probably do it.
Tensor's floating disc is done as like an emergency transport stuff. Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So my suggestion is just for the DM to sometimes, with a light touch, use their judgment and maybe throw in some of this stuff. But I wouldn't say all the time, because that can get...
Definitely not for MOOCs. Definitely not for a standard hack and slash campaign. You decide the stuff out beforehand, get everyone agreeing to it.
Well, and there's, I would not say...
Because you do not want to try and do it with even one person who doesn't want to have it go that way.
Well, here's what I would do as the DM. I would not say, like, does everyone agree to every once in a while me, like, throwing in some extra, like, flavor damage, or, like, I wouldn't say that.
I got a die that does, like, body part rolls.
What I would say to the players beforehand is, I may, every once in a while, I might do something a little different, and I want you to trust me on it. And just, if I change the rules a little bit for a moment, just, that's what I'm going to do, and that's what's going to happen.
I'd like to try it out for this adventure, and if you guys wind up liking it, maybe we'll continue it on. If you don't, we'll drop it. I just want to give it a try. Let's see how you guys like it.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, you know, leave it open to, if somebody doesn't like something that happened in the game, or thinks that a ruling I made was unrealistic or whatever, they can, you know, obviously talk to the DM after the fact and straighten it all out or whatever. But yeah, just sort of, I just basically want that. Like, all I would ask for the players is just that you trust me as a DM.
Which they should have. I mean, if you're the DM, it comes with inherent partial
trust. Like, I don't have a regular group right now, which is why I talk about, like, talking beforehand. But if this was a group that I met with every weekend, obviously at some point they'd be like, yeah, you're cool. Like, we've had so much fun playing with you all this time. So
I'm willing to at least give it a shot, even if I have my doubts about it. You know, like, you never know. I mean, if you thought it would be a little weird and you might not be into it, why you even get started with a role-playing game? Come on.
Yeah, because if you start, like, loading in entire rule systems, I think that's why we have the complaints about second edition and all these
first edition. Yeah, it was very much kind of cobbled together, you know, stapled up here in the corner.
Well, yeah, and it just becomes a book full of, like, all you're doing all session is looking up different wound tables and
looking at you, roll master.
It's like, okay, what was it? A bludgeoning weapon? Was it? Okay, bludgeoning weapon versus elbow. Okay, there we go. And
you might have to simplify it down to just like, okay, like, listen here, like, if you're going to take this, you're going to, you know, like, if you want to get hurt here, you're going to take up these penalties, or decide for yourself what sort of thing happens.
Yeah, and actually, Pathfinder, one of the things Pathfinder had was, I think it was Paizo made up, like, a deck of cards for sort of randomized penalties, and that was kind of neat. Like, sort of, you just draw one and say, oh, okay, well, it's a -2 on your dexterity, and the DM makes up some reason, and then, just move on from there.
Take it. I'm always one for a random, table sort of thing, and cards are effectively a random table.
Yeah.
There you go.
But they're a little bit easier than looking it up, or rolling and then looking. It's just grab the first card on top, and that
says everything there.
So okay. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
Okay, we went on a bit of a run there, but okay, it's all good. So I guess we'll see you again in 7 days.
Yeah, we'll be back in 7 days
with news of the Flash and the Muppets, hopefully, and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that fun stuff, and what else we've been doing and things that never really happened.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay.
So take care.
I've been Josh Shalevan.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
Send money.